Oh,
I mean,
wow.
sometimes when you see in a magazine, they talk about a tomato tree that, you know.
That's what they're talking about.
Yeah,
Tomato tree.
they're just talking about an indeterminate tomato. I mean, any indeterminate tomato can become a tomato tree.
Yes.
And they're okay, but indeterminate tomatoes tend to just become very messy, they just spread everywhere and they flop everywhere.
Yes.
So if you're looking for a neat, tidy, easy to care for tomato, grow determinate tomatoes. When you are buying your plants, look at the label and look to see if it's a determinate or indeterminate. And if you buy determinate ones, they will be much easier to care for. The thing is, the more unusual varieties, the more, what do they call it? Old-fashioned varieties, they have a name for it. I'm not thinking of it right now, but
Yes.
the historical varieties tend to be indeterminate.
Yes.
You know, the varieties that people think have the most flavor and the ones that are very unusual and they have stripy skin and they have weird colors,
Yes.
those tend to be indeterminate.
Okay.
The determinate ones are, you know, not quite so flashy,
But they're the easiest.
they're definitely the easiest. So if you're just starting out as a gardener, look for the determinate varieties. They don't require staking, and they're just a lot easier to grow.
Well, is it such as if they get heavy on the vine and touch the ground, don't they start breaking down?
Yeah, they can. They
Uh-huh.
absolutely can. And if you put a thick layer of straw under your tomatoes,
Oh,
it doesn't
okay.
really matter if they do.
Touch the ground because the straw will sort of keep them from, breaking down.
Right, the
Yeah.
straw should cushion them,
Mhm.
keep them dry, hopefully. Yeah, as long as it's not a super wet summer and you're not really overwatering. But
Yeah.
if you have a thick mulch of straw underneath the tomatoes, it should keep them off the soil and keep them cushioned and dry, and you should still not have any problems.
But also now, if we put down the straw, that's harder, helps retain moisture. Also to the plant, they don't dry out as fast. It's almost like mulch. It helps retain moisture for a plant.
Right, yeah, and it
but
keeps the
keep it
weeds down too.
Yes.
So, I mean, a good layer of straw is helpful in many ways.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's a good thing to do around your tomato plants. And if you have a couple of really healthy tomato plants that produce really well, that's all you need.
Yes.
You don't need a lot of tomato plants. It's better to have a few that really, really produce well than a whole bunch
Yeah.
that are just
Make a
struggling.
mess. Once again, I just want to tell our listening audience, you're listening to 105.3 FM radio here in Benton Harbor, Michigan, and we're getting a fresh start with Emma Kennard, I'm your host. And my guest here is Susan Robinson. She's part of my garden here, and we've been gardening. This is our 12th season, Susan. And so that's a wonderful, the number 12 is big to me because I believe that great things are going to happen this year. And we're really going to really do some things. Now, one other thing I didn't want to miss out on telling them about the second garden that we got over at the 275 Broadway in the courtyard. And you made some delicious pears. I didn't share them with anyone. I ate them all by myself. They were so good. Tell us a little bit about the garden that you have set up at 275 Pipestone there at the Arts and Culture Center.
Well, it was about, wasn't it about 5 years ago that we started a raised bed garden?
Yes, we blessed Miss Gorman with the raised bed. We took it from our account and put those in there
Yeah,
and planted the trees.
yes, and we planted the pear trees.
Yes.
And the pear trees just flourished on their own. I don't think anyone cared for them
Yes.
in the past 5 years, but
Right.
they just somehow flourished all on their own. They hadn't been pruned or cared for in any way, but they produced quite a nice crop of pears last year.
Mm.
And I didn't want to see them go to waste. There were only so many we could eat, and so I thought I'm going to try to can some. And I had never done that before, but I just read about it. And what I did, I just first you wash them and peel them, halve and core them. And then you put them in a big bowl of salt and water while you're doing all the rest of them, because it takes quite a while.
What's this salt?
That keeps them from turning brown,
Okay.
because while you're doing, it takes a long time peeling and coring and all that. And if you just let them sit there,
Yeah, turn
they're
brown.
gonna turn brown.
Mm-hmm.
So then you need to have lots and lots of big pans of boiling water. So you keep your jars go through the dishwasher, get them nice and clean. And then I also had a big pan of boiling water to dip the jars in right before I put the pears in. And I made a medium syrup of 3 cups of sugar to 4 cups of water.
Did you use regular sugar?
I used regular white sugar,
Okay.
and actually I had organic sugar, but you can use just regular old white sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a syrup. You just boil the water and sugar together until the sugar all dissolves, and then boil it up, and then put your pear halves into that, and then cook them for about 6 minutes, and then you pack your pear halves into your sterilized jars. You take your clean jars, you dip them in the boiling water, you take them out, drain them, and then you pack your hot pears that came straight out of the boiling syrup into the jars. Then you cover them with hot syrup up to ½ an inch, put the lids on, put the little screw tops on, and then you put them into a hot water bath. Cover that in boiling water, and then you process them for 25 minutes for pints, 30 minutes for quarts. And it's a lot of boiling water. But
That's a lot of work.
yeah,
You know, I get exhausted for you, big, because those were, I mean, they was delicious. You've never been able to buy them off the market that was that delicious because they were so fresh.
yeah,
And
they
you
were-
can tell the difference.
Yeah, they were very tasty, and it was just all of these pears that had grown from trees that we planted 5
Yes.
years ago that were totally organic and
Mhm.
totally delicious, and just something from trees that we had planted ourselves. So that it was very nice to have them. And I'm also making a garden in this little courtyard. I'm using the raised beds, but I'm also expanding the garden quite a bit, because I want to make a memory garden for my son Billy, who died of brain cancer. He was only 36, And he was planning on making a herb garden himself in his own house, but he never had the opportunity to do that. And so now I'm going to make a herb garden and.
You got a great start on it.
Well, we have 3 raised beds there, so that's a start. And we've put in a brick paved area for people to sit at tables. And so there's a little dining area where people can sit out at tables and chairs. And then I'm going to grow all different kinds of herbs, and I'm also going to have some planting beds of flowers. And so there will also be some ornamental flowers, just to have it look pretty. And eventually, I would like to think that the herbs that are going to be grown in the
In the raised bed.
in the raised beds and also in the rest of the garden. Perhaps they can be harvested by some of the Fresh Start garden children, and they can be processed, dried, frozen, made into different herbal products that they can then sell at the farmer's market and raise money for the garden or for themselves or whatever. I haven't gotten that far yet because the garden isn't even planted yet, so that will be further down the road. But the idea is to plant a very large herb garden and grow a variety of edible herbs.
That's wonderful. What was one of your greatest challenges in the courtyard as far as getting, we got about over 1,000 or so many bricks off of the truck when you brought them over. And a couple of days later, I said, something is wrong with my back. I don't know what's going on. You said, yeah, we got all of those bricks off the truck. I said, oh, that is right. It came back to my mind that we had took all of those bricks off of the truck, but it's a lot of work in putting a garden together. But the thing that I wanted you to sort of share with the listeners that one of your biggest challenges when you started. The woodchuck.
The woodchuck, yeah.
Yes.
I hope he's gone.
I haven't seen any sign of it.
Well, he can still pop up, I don't know. But there's this huge, gigantic, enormously fat woodchuck that lives in this courtyard. And he is just as bold as brass. And he will just, even when we're 10 feet away from him, he'll just sit up and watch you, and he doesn't seem to be the least bit afraid of people. And you practically have to throw something at him to get him to
go away.
And what I did is I just blocked all of his holes up with bricks and stones and thought, well, maybe if he can't get out into the courtyard, maybe he'll just go live somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that's what he's done.
Yes.
But I don't know. I don't know if he'll pop up in another area of the garden or not. I'm hoping he doesn't.
I'm hoping he doesn't.
But the thing is, for a long time, he had all those pears to eat.
Yeah.
Because no one else was ever harvesting them. They must have all just fallen to the ground and he just gorged on them. So.
And he had nobody to disturb him because no one was doing anything out there in the courtyard. But now since we're busy and moving about, I hope it discourages him to find another home.
I hope it does. I hope it does.
Yes.
Woodchucks can be tremendously damaging.
Yes, he was eating all of our stuff out there.
Yeah, I planted, I would say, probably 70 or 80 parsley plants.
Yeah,
And he would come through and eat every
Every
single
last
one of
one.
them in one night.
yes,
He'd just eat them right down to the ground in one night.
yes.
So, yeah, they can just destroy a
that's
garden
Yes,
in one night. So woodchucks are really a problem, and we have a live trap,
yeah,
and we have caught them and driven them like 5 miles out of town and let them go out in the country. So hopefully they found a home out in the country.
yeah. Yes,
That's the thing to do with them, is just catch them and then take them out in the country. But I don't
yes.
know, they must have some purpose, but they don't belong in the city.
No. Well, what is your thoughts about what you will grow in a small garden, such as in the courtyard? What have you in? I know you said herbs, but
Yeah.
are there anything else that you
Well,
plan to grow in there?
to go in these herbal mixes that I'm going to make, a lot of the mixes that I've looked at, in the recipes, a lot of them contain dried peppers. So I'm also going to be growing peppers because I have a food dehydrator, and I thought, well, a lot of the dried mixes have dried peppers in them, and a lot of them also have dried garlic and dried onion. So I may grow onion and garlic as well, because I'd like to think that we can grow everything that we would use
Mm-hmm.
to make little packets of a dried mixed herb that then people would mix with, say, sour cream or mayonnaise, and make a nice dip or something like that. Usually when people buy these dried herbal mixes, it's to make a dip or a marinade. And I know I buy dried herbal mixes, and usually they're sold at like tourist shops and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're usually really expensive, and I thought it would be a nice thing for the kids to sell at the farmer's market,
Yes.
because it's a small item. You can fit a whole lot of the product in something the size of a shoebox. And
Well, one of the things that I thought would be such a cute idea, we did a little bit with Miss Ernestine Muhammad.